There are over 530 known species of shark in our oceans right now. Some fit in the palm of a human hand, while others stretch longer than a school bus, and they occupy every ocean on Earth, from sunlit shallows to pitch-black depths below 10,000 feet. A few hunt in freshwater rivers hundreds of miles inland. Others produce their own light. Some have been swimming since before the founding of the United States. And yet, for all that diversity, most people struggle to name more than a handful. This is the complete guide to sharks, covering every order, every major family, and every remarkable species we know about. We are going to break down their anatomy from the inside out, examine sensory systems that border on the supernatural, walk through their hunting strategies, explore their strange and sometimes brutal reproductive methods, and lay out the real truth about how dangerous they are to humans. We will also confront the danger that runs in the opposite direction, because right now, an estimated 100 million sharks are killed by people every single year. That figure comes from a major study published in the journal Marine Policy by researcher Boris Worm and colleagues in 2013, with estimates ranging from 63 million at the low end to 273 million at the high end. 9 living orders contain over 530 described species, and that count keeps climbing as new species turn up in the deep ocean and in poorly surveyed regions. All of them belong to a class of fish called Chondrichthyes, shared with rays, skates, and chimeras. Those 9 orders are Carcharhiniformes, the ground sharks, which form the largest group, Lamniformes, the mackerel sharks, Orectolobiformes, the carpet sharks, Heterodontiformes, the bullhead sharks, Hexanchiformes, the cow sharks and frilled sharks, Squaliformes, the dogfish sharks, Squatiniformes, the angel sharks, Pristiophoriformes, the saw sharks, and Echinoorhiniformes, the bramble sharks. Every single one of them will get its turn. But before we meet them individually, we need to understand what makes a shark, because these animals are built unlike almost anything else in the sea. The single most fundamental difference separating sharks from the majority of ocean fish comes down to their skeleton. Cartilage, not bone, makes up the entire structure. Cartilage weighs roughly half what bone does, and if you have ever felt the firm but flexible material in your own ear or the tip of your nose, you already know the texture. A shark's whole body rides on this lighter, more bendable framework, and that gives them a real edge in the water. Less weight translates into better buoyancy, and the added flexibility allows faster, more fluid movement through the water column. You might assume a skeleton built from something softer than bone would produce a weak bite. That assumption falls apart quickly. Even without a single bone in its body, a shark's jaws can calcify to near bone hardness, and a great white can bite down with a force estimated at over 4,000 pounds per square inch. That figure comes from research published in the Journal of Zoology by Rowe and colleagues in 2008. Some calculation methods have placed the total force even higher, reaching into the range of 18,000 newtons, depending on the individual shark and how the measurement was taken. Either way, it ranks among the most powerful bites in the animal kingdom. The teeth themselves work nothing like ours. They sit in the gum tissue rather than being embedded in the jaw, arranged in multiple rows that function like a conveyor belt. When a front tooth breaks or wears down, the next one behind it rotates forward to fill the gap. Most species cycle through their teeth every 1 to 2 weeks, and over the course of a single shark's lifetime, it may produce and shed more than 30,000 teeth. That number is commonly cited for species like the lemon shark, and it puts the disposability of these teeth into perspective. Cavities are never a concern, because by the time a tooth shows anywhere at all, a replacement has already moved into position. Tooth shape varies wildly from species to species, depending on diet. Great whites carry broad, serrated, triangular blades designed for slicing through flesh and bone, working much like a steak knife. Makos sport narrow, pointed teeth that curve inward, perfect for gripping fast, slippery fish that would otherwise slip free. And then there are the crushers. Nurse sharks and horn sharks have flat, plate-like teeth built for destroying hard-shelled prey like sea urchins, clams, and crustaceans. Line up the teeth of 10 different shark species side by side, and you might not believe they came from related animals. The variation runs that deep. Run your hand along a shark from head to tail, and the skin feels smooth, almost silky. Reverse direction, running from tail to head, and the sensation changes entirely to something like coarse sandpaper. Every square inch of a shark's body is covered in tiny structures called dermal denticles, a word that literally means little tooth, and that description is accurate. Each dermal denticle has an outer layer of enamel, a middle layer of dentine, and a central pulp cavity. Structurally, they are almost identical to actual teeth, which means a shark, in a very real sense, wears a suit of tiny teeth from nose to tail. These denticles do far more than serve as armor. Their shape and arrangement channels water flow across the shark's body and actually cuts drag. Researchers at Harvard University published a study in the Journal of Experimental Biology in 2014, showing that surfaces designed to mimic shark skin denticles reduced drag by up to 9% compared to smooth surfaces. That advantage turned enough heads that engineers have studied shark skin for applications in everything from swimsuit design to aircraft coatings. Shark skin also had practical uses for humans throughout history. Dried shark skin, called shea green, served as an abrasive material similar to sandpaper. In Japan, the material was wrapped around the handles of katana swords to provide a non-slip grip, even when the handle was soaked with rain or blood. The Japanese term for this is semogawa, and genuine shark skin-wrapped sword handles are still prized by collectors today. A typical shark carries 5 types of fins. Dorsal fins sit on the back, usually 1 or sometimes 2. Pectoral fins, 1 on each side of the body, function remarkably like aeroplane wings, generating lift as the shark moves forward. Pelvic fins, an anal fin found in some species, and the caudal fin round out the set, with the tail serving as the primary source of propulsion. Caudal fin shape reveals a great deal about how a particular shark lives. Fast, open ocean hunters like the great white and the shortfin mako carry crescent-shaped tails, called lunate tails, engineered for sustained high-speed swimming, with upper and lower lobes nearly equal in size, and a structure designed for powerful, efficient thrust. Thresher sharks push tail design to an extreme, with an upper caudal lobe so elongated it can match the length of the entire rest of their body. That tail doubles as a weapon, whipped at incredible speeds to stun schools of fish. Bottom-dwelling species, which have no need for sustained speed, tend toward more asymmetric tails with a much larger upper lobe. When it comes to raw speed, the shortfin mako stands alone. Confirmed burst speeds exceed 74 kilometers per hour, about 46 miles per hour, and some claims push the number as high as 97 kilometers per hour, roughly 60 miles per hour, though those higher figures have not been scientifically confirmed. Great whites, by comparison, manage about 40 kilometers per hour, roughly 25 miles per hour, in short bursts. Makos can also launch themselves up to 6 meters, roughly 20 feet, clear of the water. Fishermen who have hooked Makos sometimes find the fish landing in their boats, a behavior called boating, which makes the Mako one of the most exciting and dangerous sport fish in the world. One thing no shark can do is swim backward. Unlike many bony fish, sharks only move forward, and they cannot hover in place either. For some species, stopping is not even an option. Great whites, makos, and whale sharks are what scientists call obligate ram ventilators, meaning they must keep swimming constantly to push water across their gills and breathe. An obligate ram ventilator that stops moving will suffocate. Not every shark shares that limitation. Nurse sharks, wobbegongs, and many other bottom dwellers use a system called buccal pumping, actively drawing water over their gills with muscles in their cheeks and jaw, which lets them sit completely motionless on the ocean floor for hours or even days at a time. Nurse sharks turn up, resting in piles, stacked on top of each other on the sea floor. Gill slits on the sides of the head handle respiration for most sharks, with 5 slits on each side being the standard arrangement. Exceptions stand out. 6-gill sharks carry 6, 7-gill sharks carry 7. Some species also have small openings behind the eyes called spiracles, which help funnel water toward the gills, and prove especially useful for bottom-dwelling species that might otherwise press their gill slits against the ocean floor. Active open-water swimmers generally have reduced spiracles or lack them entirely. Buoyancy works differently in sharks than in almost any other group of fish. Bony fish rely on an internal gas-filled swim bladder to control their depth with minimal effort, but sharks have no swim bladder at all. Instead, they depend on a massive oil-rich liver that can account for 25 to 30% of their total body weight. Squalene, a hydrocarbon less dense than water, is the key compound in that liver oil and the reason shark livers are so buoyant. That same compound drove the hunting of sharks for their liver oil throughout history. Deep-sea species like the gulper shark carry particularly oil-rich livers and have been heavily targeted by fishing operations for exactly that reason. Squalene from shark liver oil has turned up in cosmetics, pharmaceuticals, and even as an adjuvant in some vaccines, though plant-based squalene alternatives from olive oil, amaranth, and sugarcane are now increasingly available and widely used. Beyond the liver, sharks generate lift with their pectoral fins, which operate on the same basic aerodynamic principle as airplane wings, known as the hydrofoil principle. As a shark moves forward, water flowing over the slightly angled pectoral fins creates an upward force that helps maintain the desired depth. Between the oil-rich liver for passive buoyancy and the pectoral fins for active lift, sharks run a 2-part system that compensates remarkably well for the absence of a swim bladder. If there is one area where sharks outclass almost every other animal on the planet, it is their sensory systems. They carry more than the 5 senses we know, with additional capabilities that let them perceive the world in ways we can barely imagine. A shark inhabits a sensory world that is richer, more layered, and more detailed than anything a human could experience underwater. The most extraordinary sense of all is electroreception. Scattered across a shark's snout, and in some species across the underside of the head as well, are hundreds of tiny pores filled with a conductive gel. These are the ampullae of Lorenzini, named after the Italian anatomist Stefano Lorenzini, who first described them in 1678. These organs pick up electrical fields as weak as 5 nanovolts per centimeter, which is 5 billionths of a volt. Every living creature generates small electrical fields through muscle contractions and nerve impulses, and that fact changes everything for a shark. A heartbeat produces a faint electrical signal. A flatfish, buried completely under the sand, invisible to any eye or camera, still broadcasts tiny electrical pulses every time its heart beats or its muscles twitch. A shark swimming over that patch of sand picks up those pulses with its ampullae of Lorenzini. It does not need to see the fish or smell it. It can feel the electricity, locating prey that is completely hidden and totally invisible. Some researchers believe this system may also allow sharks to navigate using Earth's magnetic field, essentially equipping them with a built-in compass for open ocean migrations spanning thousands of miles. Hammerhead sharks deserve a closer look here. That broad, flat head, called the cephalofoil, does far more than look unusual. The wide surface area gives hammerheads an extraordinarily broad distribution of ampullae of Lorenzini, and as a hammerhead sweeps its head from side to side while swimming, It scans a much wider strip of seafloor than any other shark could. The effect is that of a biological metal detector, swept back and forth with every stroke. Smell comes next, and it dominates the shark brain. Roughly 2/3 of the entire brain is dedicated to processing olfactory information, an extraordinary proportion by any standard. 2 separate nostrils, called nares, serve exclusively for smell and play no role in breathing. Water flows in through one opening, passes over internal folds of sensory tissue, called olfactory lamellae, and flows out through another opening in a continuous stream, meaning the shark samples the water chemistry at all times. The claim that a shark can detect a single drop of blood in an Olympic-sized swimming pool is an oversimplification, but the reality falls close to that range. Research has shown that some species detect certain chemical compounds at concentrations as low as 1 part per 10 billion. A study by Hodgson and Mathewson in 1971 showed that lemon sharks could detect tuna oil at extremely low concentrations under controlled laboratory conditions. Sensitivity varies between species depending on ecology and prey, but across the board, the shark sense of smell ranks among the most acute in the animal kingdom. Shark vision is considerably better than most people assume. The old belief was that sharks had poor eyesight and relied almost entirely on other senses, but that turned out to be wrong. Many species see in color, and shark eyes contain a reflective layer behind the retina called the tapetum lucidum, the same structure found in cat eyes that causes them to glow when light hits them at night. The tapetum lucidum bounces light back through the retina a second time, effectively doubling the amount of light available to the photoreceptor cells, and dramatically improving vision in dim, murky, or deep water conditions. Great whites carry a specific adaptation worth noting. During feeding, when thrashing prey poses a real risk of eye injury, they roll their eyes completely backward into their sockets to protect the delicate tissue, a behavior called ocular rotation. Other species, like the blue shark, take a different approach with a nictitating membrane, a protective third eyelid that slides across the surface of the eye like a transparent shield. Running along each side of a shark's body, from the head all the way to the tail, is the lateral line system, a series of fluid-filled canals that detect vibrations and pressure changes in the surrounding water. The sensitivity is extraordinary. A shark using this system can sense the movements of nearby organisms, detect subtle changes in water currents, and determine both the direction and the distance of disturbances. Studies have shown completely blind sharks hunting successfully using the lateral line alone. They do not need their eyes. They feel their prey moving through the water around them. Hearing rounds out the sensory arsenal. Sharks have internal ears with no visible external openings, and they are particularly tuned to low-frequency sounds in the range of 25 to 100 Hz. That happens to be exactly the frequency range produced by injured or struggling fish, the thrashing, irregular pulses that a wounded animal sends through the water. A shark can pick up those sounds from distances of over 250 meters, more than 800 feet. In the open ocean, where a struggling fish sends out low-frequency vibrations in every direction, a shark may lock onto that signal and start swimming toward it long before any other sense comes into play. In many encounters, hearing is the first sense that alerts a shark to the presence of a potential meal. For decades, popular culture painted sharks as mindless, instinct-driven eating machines. That portrait was wrong. Research over the past several decades has revealed animals that are considerably more intelligent and more socially complex than anyone anticipated. Lemon sharks have been trained in laboratory settings to press a specific target for a food reward, and more impressively, they remembered the training and repeated it successfully after a gap of several months, according to research published in the journal Animal Cognition. Port Jackson sharks. The distinctive bullhead sharks found in Australian waters demonstrated something even more striking in studies conducted at Macquarie University and published in Animal Cognition in 2015. Some individuals were consistently bolder and others consistently more cautious, and those personality traits remained stable over time. Even more remarkably, Port Jackson sharks proved capable of learning through social observation, watching another shark perform a task and then replicating it themselves. White-tip reef sharks have been observed working in groups to systematically flush prey out of coral reef crevices, effectively herding fish into positions where they can be caught. None of that is random. It is cooperative behavior. Great whites display what appears to be genuine curiosity, engaging in spy hopping, lifting their heads vertically above the water surface to observe objects, boats, and people above the waterline. This is investigation, not aggression. Researchers who spend extended time with great whites report that individual sharks often seem to study the research boat, approach slowly, and examine unfamiliar objects with obvious interest. Shark reproduction ranks among the most varied and, in some cases, most startling systems in the entire animal kingdom. There is no single way that sharks bring new life into the world, with at least 3 major methods and some species adding twists that are genuinely shocking. Oviparity, egg-laying, accounts for roughly 30 to 40% of shark species. Their leathery egg cases wash up on beaches and go by the common name mermaid's purses. Horn sharks, cat sharks, and many bamboo shark species all lay eggs, and the cases vary enormously by species. Some are flat, rectangular pouches with long tendrils that anchor them to seaweed, while horn sharks produce distinctive corkscrew-shaped egg cases that the mother physically picks up in her mouth and screws into rock crevices for protection. Viviparity, live birth with a placental connection, works much the way mammalian reproduction does. Developing pups receive nutrients directly from the mother through a yolk sac placenta. Hammerhead sharks and bull sharks both use this method, and the pups emerge fully formed and ready to swim. The third and most common method is called ovoviviparity, or more accurately, aplacental viviparity. Eggs develop and hatch inside the mother's body, pups are born live, but no placental connection exists. Great whites, makos, and whale sharks all reproduce this way, and that is where things take a dark turn in some species. Inside the sand tiger shark, the largest embryo in each of the mother's 2 uteruses begins consuming its own siblings, a process called intrauterine cannibalism or adelphophagy. The biggest, strongest embryo eats the smaller ones until it is the sole survivor. By birth, a sand tiger shark pup has already killed and consumed its brothers and sisters inside the womb, entering the world at about 1 meter long, roughly 3.5 feet, already well developed and already a proven predator. Stuart Springer first documented this behavior back in 1948. Other species, like the great white and the short-fin mako, take a different route, with developing embryos feeding not on their siblings, but on unfertilized eggs. The mother continues producing throughout pregnancy. That process is called upage, meaning egg eating, and it delivers a rich and continuous source of nutrition during the long developmental period. Gestation periods swing wildly between species. Bonnethead sharks carry their young for approximately 4.5 to 5 months at the short end, while the spiny dogfish holds the record at 22 to 24 months, nearly 2 full years of pregnancy. Litter sizes show the same dramatic spread. Great whites and sand tiger sharks produce only 1 or 2 pups at a time, while a single whale shark caught off the coast of Taiwan in 1996 was carrying approximately 300 embryos, the largest litter ever documented for any shark species. And then there is parthenogenesis, virgin birth in plain language. Multiple shark species have produced viable offspring without any involvement from a male. The first confirmed case occurred with a bonnethead shark at the Henry Dorley Zoo in Omaha, Nebraska in 2001. The female had been isolated from males for years, yet she produced a pup. Genetic testing confirmed in a 2007 study published in Biology Letters by Chapman and colleagues showed no male DNA was present. The pup was a clone of its mother. Parthenogenesis has since been confirmed in zebra sharks, blacktip sharks, and white-spotted bamboo sharks, among others. Shark lifespans depend entirely on the species, and in some cases the numbers are almost unbelievable. Bonnethead sharks live roughly 12 to 15 years. Smooth hammerheads reach about 20 years. Great whites were once thought to top out around 20 to 30 years, but a 2014 study by Hamady and colleagues published in PLOS One used radiocarbon dating and concluded they may reach approximately 73 years. That revision means male great whites may not reach sexual maturity until they are 26 to 33 years old, while females may not mature until around 33, a slow maturation rate that carries serious conservation implications because depleted populations take decades to recover. The spiny dogfish, a small shark barely reaching 5 feet in length, can live over 100 years, an extraordinary lifespan for a relatively small marine predator. Whale sharks are estimated to live somewhere between 80 and 130 years, though tracking a single individual across an entire century presents an obvious practical challenge. The true record holder, and by a staggering margin, is the Greenland shark. A 2016 study published in Science by Julius Nielsen and a team of researchers made headlines around the world after using radiocarbon dating of proteins in the eye lenses, a tissue that does not change once formed, to estimate ages. The oldest individual clocked in at approximately 392 years. The range of uncertainty spanned from 272 to 512 years. But even at the lowest estimate, the Greenland shark is the longest-lived vertebrate known to science, not just among sharks, but among every animal with a backbone on the entire planet. Sexual maturity may not arrive for these animals until somewhere between 100 and 150 years of age. Their cruising speed sits at only about 1.2 kilometers per hour, making them among the slowest sharks in the ocean. Cold waters of the North Atlantic and the Arctic are home, and nearly every Greenland shark examined carries a parasitic crustacean called Ommatocoita elongata attached permanently to the cornea, potentially causing partial blindness. For a creature that may live for centuries, spending most of that time with impaired vision in near-total darkness beneath Arctic ice, the Greenland shark is perhaps the most patient predator the ocean has ever produced. Raw flesh from these sharks is toxic, loaded with trimethylamine N-oxide, a compound that functions as natural antifreeze in the shark's tissues. In Iceland, the people found a workaround centuries ago by burying the meat and fermenting it for several months, then hanging it to dry, producing a traditional dish called hakal. Acquired taste does not begin to cover it, and historically, when sled dogs in Arctic regions accidentally ate fresh Greenland shark meat, they exhibited symptoms resembling severe intoxication, stumbling and disoriented, a condition the Icelanders had a name for. They called it shark drunk. Our tour of the shark family tree begins with the largest order of them all, the Carchariniformes, commonly known as the ground sharks. This single order holds over 270 species, more than half of all known sharks on Earth, spread across 8 families that include some of the most familiar, most studied, and most feared sharks in the ocean. The Carcharhinidae, the requiem sharks, form the largest and most significant family within the order, with roughly 60 species carrying several immediately recognizable names. The bull shark, Carcharinus leucus, stands as one of the most dangerous sharks to humans, and the reason has less to do with aggression than with geography. Bull sharks favor shallow, warm coastal waters, frequenting harbors, estuaries, river mouths, and murky nearshore areas that happen to be the exact same places where humans swim, wade, and fish. What sets the bull shark apart is its ability to tolerate fresh water. Bull sharks have turned up far up the Mississippi River, deep into the Amazon, swimming in the Ganges River in India, and cruising through the Brisbane River in Australia, with recordings from Lake Nicaragua and journeys of hundreds of miles from the nearest ocean. A bull shark can stretch to approximately 3.5 meters, about 11.5 feet. Studies have shown they carry among the highest testosterone levels of any animal ever tested. Thick-bodied and powerful, with broad, blunt snouts and small eyes, they are built for close-quarters hunting in environments where visibility can be measured in inches. That combination of high testosterone, raw physical power, poor visibility water, and a willingness to enter freshwater makes the bull shark responsible for a significant number of nearshore attacks on humans, many of which likely go misidentified or entirely unreported because they happen in rivers and estuaries where nobody expects a shark. Some researchers believe many attacks historically attributed to other species were actually the work of bull sharks, operating in places no one thought to look. The tiger shark, Galiocerdo cuvier, ranks as the second most dangerous shark species to humans, according to the International Shark Attack File, behind only the great white. Tiger sharks reach approximately 5.5 meters, about 18 feet, and patrol tropical and warm temperate waters worldwide. Dark vertical stripes along their flanks make identification easy, though those markings tend to fade with age. That nickname, the garbage can of the sea, was earned honestly. Tiger sharks rank among the least selective eaters in the ocean, with stomachs that have yielded license plates, tires, bottles, and pieces of clothing alongside their natural diet of fish, sea turtles, seabirds, marine mammals, and other sharks. Broad, heavily serrated teeth cut through virtually anything, including the thick shells of sea turtles that few other ocean predators can manage. If it fits in a tiger shark's mouth, there is a reasonable chance the tiger shark will try to eat it, and that indiscriminate appetite is actually one of the reasons they are so dangerous to humans. Great whites often bite a person once and release, apparently deciding the target is not preferred prey. But tiger sharks are far less discerning and tend to continue feeding once they have bitten, which drives up the fatality rate per encounter. The oceanic whitetip, Carcharinus longimanus, carries a tragic story. Jacques Cousteau once called the oceanic whitetip the most dangerous of all sharks, and he was not talking about beach encounters. He meant the open ocean, where shipwreck survivors and downed pilots found themselves floating in deep water far from shore, and where the oceanic whitetip was the species most likely to arrive and most likely to attack. Once considered the most abundant large predator on the face of the earth, the oceanic whitetip roamed every tropical and subtropical ocean in enormous numbers, typically the first shark at any disturbance in open water. Bold, persistent, and seemingly fearless, this was the shark shipwreck survivors feared above all others. And then decades of commercial fishing, particularly long-line operations targeting tuna and swordfish, devastated the population on a global scale. Enormous numbers ended up as bycatch, and their distinctive white-tipped fins carry high value in the shark fin trade. According to assessments by NOAA and the IUCN, oceanic white-tip numbers have dropped by an estimated 80 to 95% in the Atlantic and Pacific since the middle of the 20th century, earning a critically endangered listing from the IUCN based on their 2018 assessment. An animal once arguably the most abundant large predator on Earth became one of the most endangered within a single human lifetime, a warning about how fast the ocean can change when exploitation goes unchecked. The blue shark, Prionas glauca, is one of the most heavily fished sharks on the planet, with an estimated 10 to 20 million killed every year. Despite those staggering losses, blue sharks remain relatively widespread in temperate and tropical waters worldwide, reaching approximately 3.8 meters, about 12.5 feet, and carrying a vivid, bright blue coloration on their backs that makes them strikingly beautiful animals. Blue sharks also rank among the greatest travelers in the ocean, with tagged individuals crossing the entire Atlantic, covering distances of more than 9,200 kilometers, roughly 5,700 miles, according to tracking research by Casey and Kohler, published in 1992. The blacktip shark, Carcharodonus limbatus, puts on one of the most spectacular displays in the shark world during feeding, launching completely out of the water in spinning, corkscrewing leaps. Reaching about 2.5 meters, roughly 8 feet, blacktips are common along the southeastern coast of the United States, where enormous aggregations form during winter migration off the coast of Florida, with thousands moving together in shallow coastal waters. The lemon shark, Negaprion brevirostris, named for its yellowish-brown coloration, stands as one of the most thoroughly studied sharks in the world. Much of what we know about shark behavior, social structure, and intelligence comes from research at the Bimini Biological Field Station in the Bahamas, commonly called the Shark Lab, founded by Dr. Samuel Gruber in 1990 and producing groundbreaking science for over 3 decades. Lemon sharks form genuine social bonds with other individuals and demonstrate strong site fidelity, returning to the same areas year after year. Reef sharks round out the most commonly encountered group. The Caribbean reef shark, the grey reef shark, the blacktip reef shark, and the white-tip reef shark patrol tropical coral reefs around the world. And if you have ever been scuba diving on a healthy tropical reef, these are almost certainly the sharks you saw. They serve as the everyday regulators of the coral reef ecosystem, keeping prey fish populations in check and removing sick or injured individuals. The white-tip reef shark stands out for its group hunting behavior at night, working cooperatively to flush prey from crevices in the coral before resting in caves or under ledges during the day, sometimes stacked together in groups, conserving energy until darkness triggers the hunt. The hammerhead sharks, family Sphinidae, deserve their own section. No other shark looks anything like them, with that broad, flattened head stretched out to either side like the crossbar of a T, unmistakable even in silhouette. 9 to 10 recognized species range from enormous open ocean apex predators to modest-sized coastal species most people have never heard of. The great hammerhead, Sphyrna mucaran, is the largest of them all, reaching lengths of up to 6.1 meters, roughly 20 feet. In juveniles, the cephalofoil can span nearly 50% of the total body length, an enormous flat structure that dwarfs the rest of the body. Adults carry a distinctive tall, sickle-shaped dorsal fin that creates one of the most dramatic silhouettes in the shark world. But that same fin has made the great hammerhead a prime target in the fin trade, earning it a critically endangered listing from the IUCN. Scalloped hammerheads, Sphyrna lewini, display a behavior unique among sharks, forming enormous schools, sometimes numbering in the hundreds, that gather at seamounts and around oceanic islands. These schools carry genuine social structure and hierarchy, and the sight of hundreds of hammerheads moving together in formation ranks among the most breathtaking underwater spectacles on Earth. The scalloped hammerhead is also listed as critically endangered by the IUCN and holds another distinction, becoming the first shark species listed under the United States Endangered Species Act in 2014. The bonnethead shark, Sphyrna tiburo, is the smallest hammerhead at only about 1.5 meters, roughly 5 feet, but it made headlines in 2018 for a completely unexpected reason. A study published in the Proceedings of the Royal Society B found that bonnetheads can digest and derive actual nutrition from seagrass, making it the first known omnivorous shark species. Researchers at the University of California, Irvine, and Florida International University fed bonnetheads a diet of 90% seagrass and found the sharks gained weight and showed digestive enzyme activity consistent with breaking down. Plant material. A vegetable-eating shark was something nobody had seen coming. The winghead shark, Eusphyra blockii, carries the proportionally widest head of any hammerhead, with a cephalofoil spanning 40 to 50% of its total body length, looking almost cartoonish in its proportions, but serving a real purpose. Research suggests the hammerhead head shape delivers multiple advantages, with the wide spread of ampullae of Lorenzini providing superior electroreceptive scanning ability, eye placement, granting enhanced binocular vision for better depth perception, the head itself functioning as a hydrodynamic wing for improved maneuverability, and great hammerheads observed using the flat underside to physically pin stingrays, their preferred prey, to the seafloor before eating them. Stingray barbs are commonly found embedded in the mouths and throats of hammerheads, evidence of how frequently they engage in this behavior. The cat sharks, family Scyliohinidae, form the single largest family of sharks by species count, with roughly 160 species, most of them small, bottom-dwelling, deep-water animals the average person has never heard of. The chain cat shark lives in the Western Atlantic at depths of 75 to 750 meters, recognized by its dark chain-link pattern. The swell shark, found in the Eastern Pacific, can inflate its body by swallowing water when threatened, effectively wedging itself into rock crevices so tightly that a predator cannot pull it out. And if brought to the surface, it inflates with air and floats like a balloon. The small spotted cat shark is one of the most common sharks in European waters and has been the subject of more scientific studies than almost any other shark species. The hound shark family, Triacidae, contains approximately 46 species. The leopard shark is a familiar sight along the California coast, where large groups gather in warm, shallow bays, reaching about 1.8 meters in length and popular in public aquariums. The taupe shark, also called the soupfin shark, earned its name from heavy targeting for the shark fin soup trade and is now listed as critically endangered by the IUCN, a grim reminder that even widespread species can be pushed to the edge by persistent fishing pressure. Remaining ground shark families include the weasel sharks, with about 8 species of small coastal sharks in the Indo-Pacific, the false cat sharks, with about 4 deep-water species, the finback cat sharks, with about 7 small deep-water species, and the family Leptocariidae, which holds a single species, the barbelled hound shark of West Africa. Now we move to the order containing the most famous shark on the planet. The lamniforms, the mackerel sharks, form a smaller order with only 15 to 16 species across 7 families, but what it lacks in numbers, it makes up for in sheer star power. These are the sharks that dominate our imaginations. Every species in this order shares certain traits, with 5 gill slits, 2 dorsal fins, an anal fin, and none of them carrying a nictitating membrane. Many are regionally endothermic, maintaining their body temperature above the surrounding water, which gives them a significant advantage in cooler seas through faster muscle response, better digestion, and sustained high-energy activity. The family Lamnidae holds 5 species, and every one of them is remarkable. The great white shark, Carcharodon carcharias, needs no introduction. It is the most famous shark in the world, and arguably the most famous predatory fish of any kind. Maximum confirmed length reaches approximately 6.1 meters, about 20 feet, though unconfirmed reports suggest individuals exceeding 7 meters. Maximum confirmed weight sits at approximately 2,268 kilograms, roughly 5,000 pounds for a large female. Great whites patrol cool to temperate coastal waters worldwide, with major hotspots at Guadalupe Island off Mexico, Seal Island in False Bay, South Africa, the Neptune Islands off southern Australia, and the Farallon Islands off California. The International Shark Attack File credits the great white with more recorded, unprovoked, fatal attacks on humans than any other species. South Africa led the way on legal protection in 1991, with Australia and the United States following. A 2014 study estimated approximately 2,148 individuals off the coast of California alone, but that captures just one regional population. The true worldwide number remains a subject of ongoing research and significant scientific debate. Satellite tagging revealed one of the great white's most fascinating behaviors: a long-distance migration from California to a remote mid-Pacific location, roughly halfway between Baja California and Hawaii. Researchers at Stanford University's Hopkins Marine Station, who first documented this journey, nicknamed the destination the White Shark Cafe, also referred to as the Shared Offshore Foraging Area, or SOFA. The sharks spend weeks or months there, making repeated deep dives, and exactly what they do at this mysterious location remains one of the great unsolved puzzles of marine biology, possibly tied to deep water feeding or mating. The great white maintains a body temperature 10 to 15 degrees Celsius above the surrounding water, detects blood in water at extremely low concentrations, and rolls its eyes backward into their sockets for protection during the violent moments of a prey attack. Among living great whites, one individual has become something of a celebrity. Deep Blue is a female estimated at over 6 meters in length, possibly the largest living great white ever filmed, made famous by researcher Mauricio Hoyos Padilla and by Ocean Ramsey, who swam alongside her first near Guadalupe Island and later near Oahu, Hawaii in January of 2019. Deep Blue is estimated to be over 50 years old. The shortfin mako, Isurus oxyrhynchus, is the fastest shark in the ocean and deserves recognition beyond its velocity. Capable of launching 6 meters out of the water, highly prized by sport fishermen for its power and fighting ability, the mako maintains an elevated body temperature, 7 to 10 degrees Celsius, above the surrounding water, keeping muscles performing at peak efficiency in cooler seas. The shortfin mako was listed as endangered by the IUCN in 2019. The longfin mako, Isurus porcus, is the shortfin's rarer, slower, deeper water cousin, living further offshore and at greater depths and much less frequently encountered. It is also listed as endangered by the IUCN. The salmon shark, Lamna ditropis, is a North Pacific species with the most extreme thermoregulatory ability of any shark. Research by Bernal and colleagues in 2005 showed that salmon sharks maintain body temperature up to 21 degrees Celsius above ambient water temperature, an astonishing feat of biological engineering. And as the name suggests, they are important predators of Pacific salmon. The porbeagle, Lamna nasus, lives in cold waters of the North Atlantic and the Southern Ocean and holds a special distinction in the behavioral literature. Porbeagles have been observed apparently playing with objects, batting around pieces of kelp and other floating debris in what big researchers described as possible recreational behavior. Whether sharks are truly capable of play remains debated, but the observations are intriguing. The porbeagle is listed as vulnerable by the IUCN. 2 families, each containing a single species, come next, and both are extraordinary. The basking shark, Chetyrhinus maximus, is the second largest living shark and the second largest living fish, behind only the whale shark. Basking sharks stretch up to 12.3 meters, more than 40 feet, and despite that size, they are completely harmless to humans. Swimming slowly, with their cavernous mouths gaping open and filtering plankton and small organisms from the water, a single basking shark can filter approximately 2,000 tons of water per hour. Basking sharks were once heavily hunted for their liver oil, with a single liver yielding up to 500 liters of squalene-rich oil. In some regions, harpoon operations continued well into the 20th century, and that sustained exploitation devastated their populations. The basking shark is listed as endangered by the IUCN and protected in UK waters, New Zealand, the US Atlantic, and several other jurisdictions. Recovery has been slow because basking sharks grow slowly, mature late, and produce relatively few offspring. The megamouth shark, Megachasma pelagios, remained completely unknown to science until November 15, 1976, when a specimen became entangled in the sea anchor of a U.S. Navy research vessel off the coast of Oahu, Hawaii. That single accidental capture revealed a large filter-feeding shark that had somehow evaded scientific detection across the entirety of human ocean exploration. Megamouth sharks reach approximately 5.5 meters, roughly 18 feet, making them the third filter-feeding shark species, alongside the whale shark and basking shark. As of early 2025, fewer than 280 confirmed sightings or captures have been recorded worldwide, an extraordinarily low number for a shark of this size that speaks to how deep and remote its habitat must be. Bioluminescent tissue inside the megamouth's mouth may serve to attract plankton prey in the darkness of the deep ocean. The thresher shark family, Alopiidae, contains 3 species, all defined by their extraordinary tails. The common thresher, Alopius vulpinus, reaches total lengths of 6.1 meters, roughly 20 feet, with a significant portion being tail. In 2013, researcher Simon Oliver and his team captured remarkable overhead footage of threshers using their tails as whips, accelerating at incredible speed to generate forces of several G at the tip, stunning or outright killing schooling fish with a single overhead strike. That was the first filmed proof of any shark using its tail as an offensive weapon, confirming what fishermen had suspected for generations. The common thresher is found in temperate and tropical waters worldwide and poses virtually no threat to humans despite its size. The pelagic thresher is a smaller Indo-Pacific species with a known aggregation site at Monad Shoal in the Philippines, now a major dive tourism destination. The big eye thresher earns its name from enormous eyes adapted for hunting in low-light conditions of deeper water, with a unique groove on the top of its head that researchers believe may help retain heat around the brain. The big eye thresher is listed as vulnerable by the IUCN. The sand tiger shark, Carcharias taurus, goes by different names depending on where you are. Grey nurse shark in Australia, ragged tooth shark in South Africa. Whatever the label, the sand tiger has one of the most fearsome appearances of any shark, with teeth protruding visibly even when the mouth is closed, giving it a perpetual snarl. Despite that look, sand tigers are generally docile toward humans. The sand tiger is the only shark known to gulp air at the surface and hold it in its stomach to aid buoyancy, and it was the first shark species in the world to receive legal protection when New South Wales, Australia, passed protective legislation in 1984. The crocodile shark, Pseudocarcharias camoharai, is a small, deep-water species reaching only about 1 meter, with disproportionately large eyes and snapping jaws that earned it the common name. Found in tropical oceans worldwide, it is rarely seen. And then there is the goblin shark, Mitsucarina austoni, an animal you do not forget once you have seen a photograph. A long, flattened, blade-like snout called a rostrum extends far beyond its mouth, giving the shark a profile unlike any other fish in the ocean. The jaws are protrusible, meaning they shoot forward explosively out of the head to seize prey at a distance, then retract smoothly back into their resting position. Rare footage of this behavior is deeply unsettling, with the jaw appearing to detach from the skull and lunge outward like a spring-loaded trap, one of the most alien feeding mechanisms in the entire animal kingdom. Goblin sharks live in deep water, typically below 200 meters, roughly 650 feet, scattered across the Atlantic, Pacific, and Indian Oceans. David Starr Jordan first described the species scientifically in 1898, based on a specimen caught in Sagami Bay, Japan. The scientific name honors the Mitsukuri family of Japanese zoologists and Alan Austin, a British collector who obtained the original specimen. The goblin shark is sometimes called a living fossil because its physical form retains features considered extremely primitive among sharks, a body plan that appears to have remained remarkably unchanged while the world around it transformed. That covers 2 of the 9 shark orders. The ground sharks brought us requiem sharks, hammerheads, cat sharks, and hound sharks, while the mackerel sharks delivered great whites, makos, threshers, and the bizarre goblin shark. Together, these 2 orders account for the vast majority of species that dominate our popular imagination. But the journey through the shark family tree is only partway complete. 7 orders still remain, and they hold some of the most surprising, unusual, and little-known sharks on the planet. We now enter an order that contains the largest fish on Earth, several species that can walk on land, a master of camouflage that looks like a piece of living seaweed, and a shark that is not actually blind despite its name. This is the order Erectolobiformes, the carpet sharks, with approximately 43 species spread across 7 families, many of them as strange as anything the ocean has to offer. The whale shark, Rhynchodon typus, comes first because nothing else in the ocean quite compares. The whale shark holds the title of largest living fish species, with a maximum confirmed length of 18.8 meters, which is 61.7 feet. According to a comprehensive size review published by McLean and colleagues in the journal Peer J in 2015, average adult length sits more modestly in the range of 9 to 12 meters, roughly 30 to 40 feet, but large individuals can weigh an estimated 21,500 kilograms, approximately 47,000 pounds. Despite that staggering size, whale sharks pose zero threat to humans. They are filter feeders, consuming plankton, fish eggs, and small fish by swimming forward with their mouths open or by using active suction feeding, essentially vacuuming food from the water. A whale shark's mouth can stretch up to 1.5 meters wide, roughly 5 feet across, but the throat is only about the size of a human fist, approximately 10 centimeters or 4 inches in diameter. It physically cannot swallow anything large. Every morsel a whale shark eats is tiny. Whale sharks also carry the thickest skin of any animal on Earth. On the back, that skin can reach up to 15 centimeters thick, roughly 6 inches, functioning as a formidable suit of armor. Each whale shark is marked with a unique pattern of pale spots and horizontal stripes against a dark gray or blue-gray background, as individually distinctive as human fingerprints. Researchers worldwide use photo identification databases to track individual whale sharks by photographing and cataloging these markings. And uploading a photograph of a whale shark's flank today allows matching against thousands of previously identified individuals. Predictable aggregations draw large numbers of whale sharks to specific locations at certain times of year. Ningaloo Reef in Western Australia hosts an annual gathering from March through July that has spawned a significant ecotourism industry, with the Western Australian government estimating whale shark swimming tourism generates approximately 12 million Australian dollars per year for the local economy. Other major aggregation sites include Isla Holbox and Isla Mujeres off Mexico, the waters around Oslob and Donsol in the Philippines, and the Maldives. The small fishing village of Donsol, in particular, has been transformed by the annual return of whale sharks, going from a poor and isolated community to an ecotourism destination celebrated each year with a whale shark festival. The Georgia Aquarium in Atlanta is one of the very few facilities in the world to house whale sharks, first displaying them in 2005 in a tank holding 6.3 million gallons of water, roughly 24 million liters. Maintaining a whale shark in captivity demands extraordinary logistics, with a tank large enough for continuous swimming loops, meticulously controlled water chemistry, a filtration system processing millions of gallons daily, and enormous quantities of tiny organisms delivered on a precise schedule. Whale sharks filter approximately 6,000 liters of water per hour through their gill rakers during feeding, sifting out the microscopic organisms that sustain them. The whale shark is listed as endangered by the IUCN based on their 2016 assessment and protected by law in numerous countries. Despite those protections, threats from ship strikes, bycatch in commercial fishing nets, and in some regions targeted hunting for meat and fins persist. The nurse shark family, Ginglimostomatidae, holds 3 species. The most familiar is the common nurse shark, Ginglimostoma ceratum, a slow-moving, bottom-dwelling species found throughout the tropical Atlantic and eastern Pacific, reaching approximately 4.3 meters in length, about 14 feet. Nurse sharks are among the most commonly encountered sharks on recreational dives, particularly in the Caribbean, and their daytime behavior is remarkably sedentary, with groups frequently resting on the ocean floor, sometimes stacked directly on top of one another in piles of 2, 3, or more. Buccal pumping lets them breathe while completely motionless, and they can survive out of water considerably longer than most shark species, tolerating low oxygen conditions that would kill other sharks quickly. Despite their docile reputation, nurse sharks account for a notable number of bites on humans, nearly all of them provoked by divers who touch, grab, or accidentally step on a resting animal. The bite is rarely life-threatening, but nurse sharks clamp down with a powerful grip and can be extremely difficult to detach. The wobbegong family, Orectolobidae, contains roughly 12 species, all found in Australian and Western Pacific waters. These are the masters of camouflage in the shark world, flat-bodied ambush predators with mottled, intricately patterned skin that blends seamlessly into the reef or rocky bottom where they lie motionless. The tasseled wobbegong pushes this concealment to an extreme, with elaborate branching skin flaps surrounding its mouth that mimic the appearance of seaweed or algae, rendering it completely invisible to passing fish and striking with explosive speed when prey wanders close enough. Tasseled wobbegongs have even been documented eating other sharks that happen to swim over them. The spotted wobbegong, one of the larger species at up to 3.2 meters, about 10.5 feet, is found throughout Australian waters and commonly encountered by divers. The zebra shark, Stegostoma tigrinum, carries one of the more confusing names in the shark world because adults have spots, not stripes. The name actually refers to the juveniles, which are born with prominent, dark and light stripes that gradually break up into spots as the animal matures. Found throughout the warm Indo-Pacific, zebra sharks have a distinctive, almost elegant appearance, with a very long tail that can nearly match the length of the rest of the body. They are notable in the scientific literature for documented cases of parthenogenesis in captivity, with females producing viable offspring without any male involvement. The bamboo shark and epaulette shark family, Hemicilidae, contains approximately 17 species, and this group includes some of the most unusual sharks in the world. The epaulette shark, Hemicillium ocellatum, possesses an ability no other shark has. It can walk. Using its muscular pectoral and pelvic fins as limbs, the epaulette shark hauls itself across the seafloor, over exposed reef flats, and even across areas of dry reef between tide pools, looking more like a lizard than a fish. The epaulette shark carries another remarkable adaptation, tolerating extremely low oxygen levels for extended periods by shutting down non-essential brain functions and simply waiting for the water to return when stranded on an exposed reef flat. Several new walking shark species were described between 2013 and 2020, mostly from the waters of New Guinea and eastern Indonesia, suggesting this group may be more diverse than previously recognized. The blind shark family, Brachyleuridae, holds 2 species found only in eastern Australian waters. The common blind shark, Brachyleurus waddi, is not blind at all. The name comes from its habit of closing its eyes tightly when pulled from the water by fishermen, which gave early observers the impression of no functional eyes. Underwater, the blind shark sees perfectly well, simply retracting its eyes as a protective response. The collared carpet shark family, Parasylidae, rounds out the order with approximately 9 small, poorly known species from the Western Pacific. Deep-water bottom dwellers, known from only a handful of specimens. The order Heterodontiformes contains a single family, Heterodontidae, with 9 recognized species. Bullhead sharks are small, slow-moving, bottom-dwelling animals with distinctive ridges above their eyes and a broad, blunt head. Their teeth set them apart from almost every other shark because they carry 2 distinct types in the same mouth. Front teeth are small, sharp, and pointed for grabbing prey, while rear teeth are flat and broad, built for crushing hard-shelled organisms like sea urchins and mollusks. The name Heterodontus itself translates to different teeth. The horn shark, Heterodontus francisci, lives in the eastern Pacific along the California coast, reaching about 1.2 meters, roughly 4 feet. Horn sharks produce extraordinary corkscrew-shaped egg cases that the female picks up in her mouth and physically screws into rock crevices, where the spiral shape holds firm and protects the developing embryo from predators. A venomous spine sits in front of each dorsal fin, serving as a deterrent to larger predators. The Port Jackson shark, Heterodontus portus jacksoni, is found in Australian waters and easily identified by its distinctive dark harness-shaped marking running across the back and sides. As covered earlier, behavioral research at Macquarie University demonstrated individual personality traits and the ability to learn through social observation in this species. The crested bullhead shark, Heterodontus galeatus, is another Australian species named for the prominent ridges above its eyes, less commonly encountered than the Port Jackson shark and restricted primarily to eastern Australian waters. The ancient order Hexanchiformes contains 7 species across 2 families, distinguished by a feature that sets them apart from the vast majority of their relatives. While most sharks carry 5 gill slits, members of this order have 6 or 7. The cow shark family, Hexanchidae, holds 5 species. The blunt-nose, 6-gill shark, Hexanchus griseus, ranks among the largest sharks in the ocean, reaching lengths of up to 4.8 to 6.1 meters, roughly 16 to 20 feet. Carrying 6 gill slits and found in deep water worldwide, the 6-gill typically cruises below 200 meters during the day and migrates into shallower water at night to feed, remaining rarely encountered by humans because of its deep water habitat. The broad-nosed 7-gill shark, Notrincus cepedianus, lives in temperate coastal waters around the world, carries 7 gill slits, and reaches approximately 3 meters, about 10 feet. The 7-gill stands out for its hunting behavior as one of the few shark species documented engaging in pack hunting, with multiple individuals working together to pursue and corner prey, a level of cooperation unusual in sharks that has drawn comparison to terrestrial predator strategies. The frilled shark family, Chlamydoselachidae, contains 2 species, and the common frilled shark, Chlamydoselicus anguineus, ranks among the most unusual-looking animals in the entire ocean. An elongated, snake-like body stretches up to 2 meters, roughly 6.5 feet, bearing no resemblance to most people's image of a shark. 6 gill slits give the animal its name, with the first pair extending all the way across the underside of the throat, creating a distinctive ruffled collar of gill tissue. The mouth sits at the terminal end of the snout, rather than on the underside, as in most sharks, housing approximately 300 small, trident-shaped teeth arranged in 25 rows, each tooth carrying 3 needle-like cusps that point backward and create a trap from which soft-bodied prey like squid would have virtually no chance of escaping. Deep water between 50 and 1,500 meters is the frilled shark's domain, and live encounters are so rare that each one generates significant scientific interest and media attention. Specimens brought to the surface by deep-sea trawlers usually die quickly in warm, shallow water. The frilled shark turns up in scattered, seemingly disconnected locations across the Atlantic and Pacific, and its biology, particularly its reproductive cycle, remains poorly understood. Some researchers have estimated the gestation period at over 3 years, which would make it the longest of any vertebrate. But that figure rests on extremely limited data and awaits confirmation. The Squaliformes is the second largest shark order, holding approximately 130 species across 7 families. These are predominantly deep-water sharks, and among them are some of the most extraordinary animals in the sea, including species that produce their own light, one that carves perfectly circular bites out of creatures many times its size, and the longest-lived vertebrate on Earth. The dogfish family, Squalidae, contains roughly 33 species. The most historically significant is the spiny dogfish, Squalus acanthius, a small shark reaching approximately 1.6 meters, about 5 feet, that was once one of the most abundant shark species in the world and the target of the largest shark fishery ever conducted. In the United Kingdom, spiny dogfish was a staple of the fish and chips trade, sold under the market names rock salmon or huss, with most customers having no idea they were eating shark. A venomous spine sits in front of each dorsal fin. The species lives in temperate waters worldwide, and as covered earlier, the spiny dogfish holds the record for the longest known shark gestation at 22 to 24 months and can live over 100 years. That combination of extremely slow reproduction and heavy fishing pressure made it particularly vulnerable to overexploitation. The lantern shark family, Etmopteridae, holds roughly 51 species, including the smallest shark on the planet. The dwarf lantern shark, Etmopterus perryi, tops out at approximately 20 centimeters, just under 8 inches. First described by Stuart Springer and George Burgess in 1985, and known from only a small area off the coast of Colombia and Venezuela. At depths between 283 and 439 meters, it fits comfortably in the palm of an adult human hand. Many lantern sharks produce bioluminescence through specialized light-emitting organs called photophores. The velvet belly lantern shark, found in the eastern Atlantic and Mediterranean, concentrates photophores on its underside to produce a soft glow thought to serve as counter-illumination camouflage, matching the faint light from above so that predators looking upward cannot spot the shark silhouetted against the sky. A 2021 study published in Frontiers in Marine Science by Malafet and colleagues documented 3 bioluminescent deep-water shark species off New Zealand: the kitefin shark, the black-belly lantern shark, and the southern lantern shark. The kitefin shark, Dalatias licha, which reaches up to 1.8 meters, roughly 6 feet, was confirmed as the largest known bioluminescent vertebrate on Earth. A 6-foot shark that glows in the dark is one of those deep ocean facts that sounds impossible until the evidence arrives. The sleeper shark family, Somniosidae, holds approximately 17 species, with the Greenland shark, Somniosus microcephalus, as its most famous member. We covered its extraordinary lifespan earlier, but there is more to say. Greenland sharks reach lengths of up to 7.3 meters, roughly 24 feet, making them one of the largest sharks in the world. Living in the cold North Atlantic and Arctic waters, they cruise at only about 1.2 kilometers per hour, approximately 3/4 of a mile per hour, making them among the slowest sharks in the ocean. And yet, stomach contents reveal a surprisingly varied and sometimes baffling diet, including seals, large fish, and even reindeer and moose carcasses that fell through ice or drifted into Arctic waters. How such an incredibly slow-moving predator catches live seals remains a genuine mystery. Some researchers speculate they ambush sleeping seals, while others suggest they scavenge already dead animals, and the truth may involve both strategies. Almost every Greenland shark examined carries the same unwanted passenger, a parasitic copepod called Ommatocoita elongata that attaches permanently to the cornea, potentially causing significant visual impairment. For a creature spending its life in near total darkness in deep Arctic water and potentially living for centuries. This seems like a cruel affliction, but the Greenland shark has apparently thrived for all of recorded history despite it. Trimethylamine N-oxide, loaded into the flesh, functions as natural antifreeze, allowing tissues to operate in near-freezing water, while also making the meat toxic when consumed fresh. Icelanders developed an elaborate workaround centuries ago, burying the shark meat in gravel for 6 to 12 weeks to ferment and break down the toxic compounds, then hanging it to dry for several more months. The resulting product is called hakal, and it remains an Icelandic delicacy, though visitors frequently describe both the taste and especially the smell as extraordinarily challenging, earning a reputation as one of the most unusual traditional foods in the world. Sled dogs in Arctic regions that accidentally ate fresh Greenland shark meat would stumble around disoriented, and the Icelanders had a name for this condition, hakala sot, or shark drunk. The Pacific sleeper shark, Somniosus pacificus, inhabits the deep, cold waters of the North Pacific as the counterpart to the Greenland shark. Stomach content analysis has revealed meals of giant Pacific octopus and marine mammal remains, indicating capable predation despite the sluggish appearance. The cookie-cutter shark family, Dalatidae, contains roughly 10 species, and the cookie-cutter shark, Icystius brasiliensis, employs a feeding strategy utterly unique in the animal kingdom. This small shark, reaching only about 50 centimeters or 20 inches, attacks animals many times its own size, including tuna, marlins, dolphins, whales, and other sharks. By latching on with suction cup-like lips, biting down with razor-sharp lower teeth, and twisting its body to carve out a perfectly circular plug of flesh. The wound left behind is a neat, round crater that looks exactly like a cookie cutter made it. The cookie cutter carries the proportionally largest teeth of any shark relative to body size. Its scientific name, Icystius, comes from Isis, the Egyptian goddess of light, a reference to the bioluminescent underside that may function as a lure. Larger predators approaching what looks like easy glowing prey in the dark water end up losing a plug of flesh for their trouble. Cookie-cutter sharks also caused problems for the United States Navy in the 1970s and 1980s, biting into the neoprene sonar domes of submarines and causing repeated equipment failures that degraded sonar performance until the Navy developed more resistant materials. The gulper shark family, Centrophoridae, holds approximately 15 species of deep-water sharks, heavily targeted for their extremely oil-rich livers. Squalene from gulper shark livers has been used commercially in cosmetics and pharmaceuticals, and many gulper shark species now carry critically endangered listings from the IUCN as a result. The rough shark family, Oxynotidae, contains 5 species with an unusual laterally compressed body shape, deep water sharks rarely encountered and poorly understood. The order Squatiniformes contains a single family, Squatinidae, with approximately 24 species. Angel sharks stand out for their body shape, dorsoventrally flattened, meaning wide and flat rather than tall and narrow, creating a silhouette that looks more like a ray than a traditional shark. They lie on the sandy or muddy ocean bottom, partially buried and perfectly camouflaged, waiting for prey to swim within range. When prey approaches, an angel shark strikes in less than 1/10 of a second, making it one of the fastest predatory attacks of any shark species. The lunge upward, jaws opening wide, engulfs the prey before the victim has any chance to react, an explosive burst of violence from an animal that moments before looked like part of the sea floor. The common angel shark, Squatina squatina, was once abundant throughout European waters from Scandinavia to the Mediterranean and has suffered one of the most devastating population collapses of any shark in the world. Now listed as critically endangered by the IUCN and considered locally extinct in the North Sea and much of the Mediterranean, the last significant remaining population lives in the Canary Islands, which have become the global stronghold for the species. The Angel Shark Project, founded in 2013 by the Zoological Society of London, is the primary conservation effort working to protect what remains. The Pacific angel shark, Squatina californica, lives along the Pacific coast from Alaska to Baja California, reaching approximately 1.5 meters, about 5 feet, and is frequently spotted by divers resting on sandy bottoms near kelp forests and rocky reefs along the California coast. The order Pristiophoriformes contains 2 families and approximately 10 species. Saw sharks are immediately recognizable by their elongated, flattened snout, called a rostrum, lined on both sides with sharp, tooth-like projections called lateral teeth. Long and short teeth alternate, giving the rostrum the appearance of a double-edged saw blade. The long-nosed saw shark, Pristiophorus serratus, lives in southern Australian waters, reaching approximately 1.4 meters, roughly 4.5 feet. The rostrum serves 2 purposes. First, as a sensory organ equipped with electroreceptive ampullae and a pair of long barbels, whisker-like sensory appendages hanging from the underside of the snout that together allow the saw shark to detect prey buried in sediment. Second, as a weapon, slashed sideways through schools of fish to stun or injure them with the saw-toothed edge before circling back to eat the disabled prey. The 6-gill saw shark, Pleotrema warreni, holds the distinction of being the only saw shark with 6 gill slits rather than the usual 5 found in the southwestern Indian Ocean. Saw sharks should not be confused with sawfish, which are rays in the family Pristidae, not sharks at all. Both carry elongated, tooth-lined rostrums, but saw sharks have gill slits on the sides of their heads and barbels on the underside of the rostrum, while sawfish have gill slits on the underside of their body and lack barbels entirely, a classic case of 2 unrelated groups independently arriving at a similar body plan. The tour of shark orders ends with the smallest and most obscure of the 9. The order Echinohiniformes is sometimes not recognized as separate, with some taxonomists placing its members within the Squaliformes, but many modern classifications treat it as its own distinct order. A single family, Echinohrinidae, holds just 2 species. The bramble shark, Echinohynus brucus, takes its name from distinctive thorn-like dermal denticles that are large, widely spaced, and look like thorns or barnacles covering the body rather than the fine, closely packed denticles found on most sharks. Bramble sharks live in deep temperate waters worldwide, reaching approximately 3.1 meters, about 10 feet, and are rarely encountered. The prickly shark, Echinohynus cucci, lives in the Pacific Ocean at depths of 100 to 1,500 meters. Similar in size and appearance to the bramble shark and equally rare. Together, these 2 species represent the quiet, uncharted fringe of the shark world, reminders that even after centuries of exploration, large animals can remain almost entirely unknown to science. And with that, the journey through all 9 orders of living sharks is complete, from the massive whale shark to the dwarf lantern shark that fits in the palm of a hand, from the speed of the mako to the patience of the Greenland shark, from the bioluminescent glow of the kitefin shark in the deep ocean to the walking epaulet shark hauling itself across an exposed reef flat at low tide, from the explosive ambush of the angel shark to the perfectly circular bite of the cookie cutter, 530 species and counting. But knowing what sharks are is only part of the story. In our final section, we need to confront the real statistics on shark attacks because the numbers tell a very different story from the one Hollywood has been selling for 50 years. We need to examine the conservation crisis driving 1/3 of all shark species toward extinction. We need to understand the economics of shark fishing and shark tourism, and why a living shark is worth far more than a dead one. The sharks are in trouble, and their story is not over yet. We have now met every major group of sharks on the planet, going order by order through all 9 branches of the family tree and examining hundreds of species, from the largest fish in the ocean to one that fits in your hand. But there is a subject we have not yet addressed directly, and it is the one most people think of first when they hear the word shark attacks. Fear of shark attacks sits deeply embedded in our culture. It keeps many people out of the ocean. It fuels an entire genre of horror films. And by almost every statistical measure, it is wildly out of proportion to the actual risk. The International Shark Attack File, maintained by the Florida Museum of Natural History at the University of Florida, serves as the world's premier database of shark attacks. Reports have been collected and verified since 1958, with the original compilation done by the United States Navy. According to the ISAF, 2023 saw 69 confirmed unprovoked shark bites on humans worldwide, resulting in 10 fatalities. 2022 recorded 57 confirmed unprovoked bites, with 5 fatalities. Preliminary data for 2024 reported 67 unprovoked bites and 8 fatalities, with the 10-year average sitting at approximately 70 to 80 unprovoked bites per year globally. Perspective helps. Approximately 10 people die from dog attacks every year in the United States alone, compared to an average of less than 1 shark fatality per year in American waters. Lightning, bee stings, falling coconuts, and ordinary drowning all claim more lives than sharks. The odds of being attacked by a shark in United States waters sit at approximately 1 in 11.5 million, according to ISAF estimates. A person is more likely to be struck by lightning while driving to the beach than to be bitten by a shark after arriving. And there is another comparison that puts the entire relationship between humans and sharks into stark, undeniable terms. For every single human killed by a shark in a given year, an estimated 11,000 to 25,000 sharks are killed by humans. That calculation draws from approximately 100 million sharks killed annually versus roughly 10 human fatalities per year. The math requires no calculator. Humans are not the prey in this relationship. We are the predator, and an extraordinarily effective one. 3 species account for the vast majority of fatal unprovoked attacks. The great white carries the most recorded fatal attacks, according to ISAF records, with the tiger shark ranking second and the bull shark with its preference for murky, shallow water where humans wade and swim, responsible for more nearshore incidents than many people realize. Fatality rates from unprovoked bites have actually been declining steadily over the decades. Before 1960, the fatality rate ran roughly 25 to 30%. In recent years, that number has dropped to approximately 6 to 10%, an improvement attributable almost entirely to faster emergency medical response, better trauma care, improved beach safety measures including lifeguard coverage, and widespread availability of tourniquet training and rapid evacuation to hospitals. A shark bite that would have killed someone 50 years ago is now survivable in many cases because of how quickly the victim reaches medical care. The single location with the most unprovoked shark bites in the world, consistently and by a wide margin, is the United States, and within the country, Florida dominates the statistics. Volusia County, which includes New Smyrna Beach, is the most common location for shark bites on the planet, earning New Smyrna Beach the unofficial title of the shark bite capital of the world. Bites there are overwhelmingly minor, typically caused by blacktip sharks or spinner sharks in the surf zone, often resulting in small lacerations to hands and feet, with most victims not even requiring hospitalization. While the overall risk of a shark attack is vanishingly small, individual stories of shark encounters can be extraordinary, and several incidents have had lasting impact on public perception, scientific understanding, and even military history. The worst shark attack event in recorded history took place not at a beach, but in the open ocean during the final days of the Second World War. On July 30th, 1945, the USS Indianapolis, a United States Navy heavy cruiser, was torpedoed by a Japanese submarine in the Philippine Sea. The Indianapolis had just completed a secret mission, delivering components for the atomic bomb that would be dropped on Hiroshima. Of approximately 1,195 crew members aboard, roughly 900 survived the initial sinking and entered the water. What unfolded over the next 4 to 5 days became the single most horrific chapter in the history of shark-human encounters. Survivors floated in the open Pacific, scattered across miles of ocean, many without life jackets, coated in fuel oil, suffering dehydration and exposure, and with no rescue coming because the Navy did not realize the ship had gone down. No distress signal had been received, and the Indianapolis had been traveling under radio silence. Oceanic white-tip sharks, the very species Jacques Cousteau had called the most dangerous of all sharks, began arriving and attacking the men in the water. The attacks were not a single event but continued for days, with sharks circling the scattered groups of survivors, picking off the wounded, the exhausted, and those who drifted away from the main groups. Survivors later described watching helplessly as men were pulled under the surface, one by one. By the time a Navy patrol plane spotted the survivors by chance, on August 2nd, 1945, only approximately 316 men were pulled alive from the sea. An estimated 150 sailors, and possibly considerably more, had been killed by sharks during those days in the water, with many others dying from exposure, dehydration, saltwater ingestion, and injuries from the torpedo strike itself. The sinking of the Indianapolis remains the worst shark attack event in recorded history and the deadliest single disaster in United States Navy history. Captain Charles McVeigh III, the ship's commanding officer, was controversially court-martialed after the war for failing to zigzag, a decision many naval historians and surviving crew members considered profoundly unjust. McVeigh was formally exonerated by a resolution of the United States Congress in the year 2000, more than half a century after the tragedy. Decades earlier, a series of attacks along the New Jersey shore had already planted the seeds of America's fear of sharks. Between July 1st and July 12th, 1916, 5 people were attacked along the New Jersey coast, with 4 killed and 1 seriously injured. Attacks took place at Beach Haven, Spring Lake, and remarkably, in Matawan Creek, a shallow tidal waterway miles from the open ocean. Whether the attacker was a great white shark, a bull shark, or possibly both remains debated to this day, but the cultural impact is not in dispute. The 1916 New Jersey shark attacks are considered the direct inspiration for Peter Benchley's 1974 novel, Jaws, which would go on to reshape the way the entire world thought about sharks. 2 individual stories stand out for their combination of drama and aftermath. On October 31st, 2003, 13-year-old surfer Bethany Hamilton was lying on her board in the waters off Tunnels Beach in Kauai, Hawaii, when a 14-foot tiger shark attacked and severed her left arm just below the shoulder. Despite the catastrophic injury and massive blood loss, Hamilton survived. And even more remarkably, she returned to competitive surfing just 26 days after the attack. A successful career as a professional surfer and motivational speaker followed, with her story adapted into the 2011 film Soul Surfer, making it one of the most widely known shark attack survival stories in the world. On December 8, 1963, Australian spearfisher Rodney Fox was competing in a spearfishing competition off Aldinga Beach in South Australia when a great white shark attacked. The injuries demanded 462 stitches to close. Fox survived, and rather than developing a hatred of sharks, he went in the opposite direction entirely, devoting the rest of his life to studying and protecting great whites. Fox is credited with pioneering the first underwater shark observation cage, a device that opened the door for generations of researchers and filmmakers to observe great whites safely in their natural environment. His transformation from attack victim to conservation champion remains one of the most remarkable journeys in marine science history. No conversation about sharks and humans is complete without addressing the most influential piece of shark media ever created. The 1975 film Jaws, directed by Steven Spielberg and based on Benchley's novel, earned approximately $470 million worldwide at the box office, a figure exceeding $2 billion when adjusted for inflation. Jaws is widely considered the first modern summer blockbuster, the film that invented the massive wide-release opening weekend, winning 3 Academy Awards and becoming a cultural phenomenon that endures to this day. The impact on sharks was devastating, and the consequences continue to reverberate. Recreational shark fishing exploded in popularity in the years following the release. Fishing tournaments targeting great whites and other large sharks saw enormous increases in participation. Charter boat captains who had never previously targeted sharks suddenly found themselves booked solid by customers wanting to catch the monster they had seen on screen. Public fear of sharks shifted from manageable to something closer to mass hysteria. Beach attendance dropped in some areas, and coastal communities dependent on tourism scrambled to reassure the public. Shark populations, already under significant pressure from commercial fishing, faced a devastating new wave of recreational killing, driven by a toxic combination of fear and machismo. The great white went from being a little-known marine predator, an animal most people had never seen or thought about, to the most feared creature on the planet virtually overnight. Peter Benchley himself came to deeply regret the consequences of his novel and the film it inspired. In interviews during the late 1990s and early 2000s, he said that knowing what he knows now, he could never write that book today, that sharks do not target human beings and certainly do not hold grudges. The exact phrasing varies between sources, but the sentiment was consistent and heartfelt. Benchley spent his final years as an outspoken shark conservationist, traveling the world, speaking on behalf of shark protection, and working to undo the damage his fictional creation had inadvertently caused. He died in 2006, having transformed himself from the man who taught the world to fear sharks into one of their most passionate defenders. Shark Week, on the Discovery Channel, first airing in July of 1988, became another powerful force in shaping public attitudes toward sharks, and holds the title of the longest-running cable television programming event in history. Some marine biologists credit it with raising awareness and generating interest in conservation, while others have criticized certain programs for sensationalism that reinforces the Jaws narrative rather than correcting it. Shark Week has unquestionably made sharks among the most recognizable animals on the planet, and that recognition can cut both ways. Now we turn to the numbers that truly matter, because the situation facing the world's sharks is genuinely dire. A landmark study published in Nature in 2021 by Pacaro and colleagues found that global populations of oceanic sharks and rays have declined by 71% since 1970. In roughly 50 years, the open ocean lost nearly 3/4 of its sharks and rays, one of the most dramatic population collapses of any group of large animals documented in the modern era. Approximately 1/3 of all shark and ray species on Earth are now classified as threatened with extinction according to the IUCN Red List. Critically endangered species include the oceanic whitetip, the scalloped hammerhead, the great hammerhead, the dagger-nosed shark, the Ganges shark, many angel shark species, and the taupe shark. The Pondicherry shark may already be extinct, with no confirmed sightings in decades. Endangered species include the whale shark, the short-fin mako, the long-fin mako, and the basking shark. While the great white is listed as vulnerable by most assessments, overfishing drives this crisis. Sharks are killed in targeted fisheries for their fins, meat, and liver oil. They are killed as bycatch in longline and gillnet operations, targeting tuna and swordfish. And they are killed in shark control programs designed to protect beachgoers. Shark finning, the practice of catching a shark, cutting off its fins, and discarding the body at sea, often while the animal is still alive and conscious, ranks among the most destructive and wasteful forces in the history of the ocean. Without its fins, the shark sinks to the bottom and dies slowly. Shark fins go almost exclusively into shark fin soup, a luxury dish with deep roots in Chinese culture, traditionally served at weddings, banquets, and important business dinners as a symbol of respect, generosity, and prosperity. A single bowl can sell for $100 or more at high-end restaurants. The global shark fin trade has been valued at approximately $400 to $550 million per year, according to the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations and various international trade analyses. Hong Kong has historically handled roughly 50% of the global trade, serving as the primary hub through which fins pass from fishing nations to consumer markets across Asia. According to the FAO, total global reported shark catch peaked at approximately 900,000 metric tons in 2003 and has since declined to roughly 700,000 to 800,000 metric tons per year. Actual catch figures, including unreported, unregulated, and illegal fishing, are almost certainly significantly higher. Indonesia, India, Spain, and Taiwan consistently rank among the top shark-catching nations. Much of the shark meat caught globally is sold under names that hide its true identity, appearing as flake in Australia, rock salmon or huss in the United Kingdom, and cazon in Mexico and across Latin America. Many consumers eat shark without ever knowing it. As of 2024, shark finning has been banned in many jurisdictions, including the European Union, the United States, Canada, and numerous Pacific Island nations. Enforcement at sea remains an enormous challenge, and the trade has partially shifted to other markets. Hong Kong customs data show shark fin imports to the city declining from approximately 10,000 metric tons per year in the early 2000s to roughly 4,500 to 5,000 metric tons by the early 2020s. But imports to Vietnam and mainland China have increased, suggesting a partial redistribution of the trade rather than a true reduction. NBA star Yao Ming partnered with the conservation organization WildAid, beginning around 2006, in a high-profile campaign against shark fin consumption, and his involvement is credited with significantly raising awareness in China and contributing to declining demand in some markets. Despite the grim overall picture, meaningful conservation victories have emerged. In November of 2022, at the CITES Conference of the Parties, known as COP19 in Panama City, 54 species of requiem sharks and hammerhead sharks were added to CITES Appendix 2, the largest single expansion of shark protections in CITES history, and bringing the total number of listed shark and ray species to over 100. Any international trade in these species now requires permits and sustainability assessments. As of 2024, approximately 17 countries and territories have established shark sanctuaries, where commercial shark fishing is completely banned. Palau created the world's first shark sanctuary in 2009, designating roughly 600,000 square kilometers, about 230,000 square miles, as a no-take zone. Countries including the Maldives, Honduras, the Bahamas, and the Marshall Islands followed with their own sanctuaries. Multiple United states have banned the sale and trade of shark fins. Hawaii led the way in 2010, California followed in 2011. New York passed its ban in 2013, and Canada banned the import and export of shark fins nationally in 2019. large marine protected areas in the Galapagos Marine Reserve, the Chagos Archipelago in the Indian Ocean, and Papahanaumokuakea in the northwestern Hawaiian Islands provide critical habitat protection for multiple shark species. And then there is the economic argument, which may ultimately prove the most persuasive of all. A 2013 study by Cisneros Montemayor and colleagues published in the journal Oryx estimated the global shark-watching tourism industry at approximately $314 million per year, supporting over 10,000 jobs in 29 countries. The study found that a single living shark could generate up to $250,000 in tourism revenue over its lifetime, using whale sharks at Ningaloo Reef as an example. Compare that to a one-time value of roughly $50 to $60 for the same shark's fins. A living shark in the right location is worth thousands of times more than a dead one. Key shark tourism destinations include Guadalupe Island off Mexico for great white cage diving, Gansbai in South Africa for great white encounters, the North Shore of Oahu in Hawaii for Galapagos and sandbar sharks, Tiger Beach in the Bahamas for tiger shark diving, Becca Lagoon in Fiji for bull shark feeds, Cocos Island off Costa Rica for massive hammerhead schools, and Ningaloo Reef in Australia for whale shark swimming. These operations pour millions of dollars into local economies, create jobs, and give communities a powerful financial incentive to protect sharks rather than kill them. Shark conservation is not without its controversies. Queensland, Australia, has operated its shark control program using drumlines and shark nets since 1962, while New South Wales uses shark nets at 51 beaches. These programs kill hundreds of sharks per year, along with significant numbers of non-target species, including dolphins, turtles, and rays. Critics, including the Humane Society International and many marine biologists, argue the programs are ecologically destructive and do not significantly reduce attack risk, while proponents point to the low number of fatal attacks at protected beaches as evidence of effectiveness. Similar debates surround the shark nets, operated by the KwaZulu-Natal Sharks Board in South Africa, running since 1952. On Reunion Island, a French territory in the Indian Ocean, a series of fatal shark attacks between 2011 and 2019 led to intense conflict between surfers, fishermen, conservationists, and government authorities. Shark fishing programs were implemented, water activities were restricted, and the debate over balancing human safety with marine conservation became deeply acrimonious and remains unresolved. Chumming, using blood and fish parts to attract sharks, is employed by cage diving operations worldwide and has generated debate about whether it conditions sharks to associate humans and boats with food. A 2012 study in marine policy examining great white behavior at Guadalupe Island found no significant behavioral change attributable to cage diving operations, but concerns persist, particularly about operations near popular swimming beaches. One of the most dramatic recent developments in the shark world has been the ongoing predation of great whites by orcas off South Africa. Two specific orcas, known to researchers as port and starboard because of the directions their dorsal fins lean, have been systematically hunting great whites and selectively consuming their livers, rich in squalene and highly nutritious. Research published by Towner and colleagues in the African Journal of Marine Science in 2022 documented this behavior and its consequences. Great whites have largely abandoned their traditional habitats in False Bay and around Gansbai in response, and Seal Island in False Bay, once one of the most famous locations in the world to witness great white breaching while hunting Cape fur seals, has seen its great white population essentially disappear. That has raised serious questions about cascading ecosystem effects, including a documented increase in medium-sized predators like seven-gill sharks that may be thriving in the absence of great white competition. Before we close, The depth of sharks in human culture and history extends far beyond Hollywood horror. The ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle described several shark species in his work Historia Animalium, approximately 350 years before Christ, correctly noting their cartilaginous skeletons and that many species gave birth to live young, one of the earliest accurate scientific observations of sharks. In Hawaiian culture, sharks hold a sacred place, known as Mano and considered Aumakua, ancestral guardian spirits that protect and guide family members. The Hawaiian shark god is Kamahoali'i, considered the brother of the volcano goddess Pele, and in traditional Hawaiian society, harming certain sharks was strictly taboo, a form of cultural protection that predated modern conservation laws by centuries. Aboriginal Australian and Torres Strait Islander cultures include numerous shark totems and creation stories, while in Fiji, traditional shark calling ceremonies and shark kissing rituals demonstrate a relationship built on reverence and respect rather than fear. The renowned oceanographer, Dr. Sylvia Earle, has captured the connection between sharks and ocean health in her public statements, saying in paraphrased form, "No water, no life, no blue, no green, no sharks, no healthy oceans." The exact wording varies across her many talks, but the message stays consistent. Sharks are not a luxury the ocean can afford to lose. They are a structural necessity. We began this film with a simple premise. Over 530 known species of shark swim in our oceans. We have now met them, every order, every major family, every remarkable, strange, terrifying, beautiful, and misunderstood species we could find. We have watched the whale shark, gentle and enormous, filtering water through a mouth 5 feet wide and a throat the size of a fist. We have tracked the mako, the fastest shark alive, launching itself 20 feet into the air. We have descended into the deep ocean to find the goblin shark extending its alien jaws, the frilled shark drifting through darkness with 300 teeth, and the kitefin shark glowing blue in water where sunlight has never reached. We have walked with the epaulette shark across exposed reef flats, followed the great white across an ocean to a mysterious mid-Pacific destination scientists are still trying to understand, and met the Greenland shark, an animal that may have been alive when Shakespeare was writing his plays, still cruising slowly through the Arctic, half blind and in no particular hurry. We have also confronted the uncomfortable truth about what humans have done and continue to do to these animals. 100 million sharks killed every year, a 71% decline in open ocean populations in just 50 years, a third of all species threatened with extinction, an animal demonized by a single movie that its own author came to regret writing. But reasons for hope have appeared alongside the damage. Countries creating shark sanctuaries, the global shark fin trade beginning to shrink, CITES protections extended to more than 100 species, communities around the world discovering that a living shark swimming past a snorkeler is worth thousands of times more than the same shark dead on a dock. Individual people, researchers like Samuel Gruber in the Bahamas, and survivors like Rodney Fox in Australia, devoting their entire lives to understanding and protecting the animals most people only know how to fear. Sharks are not the monsters that popular culture has made them. They are not mindless, and they are not driven by an insatiable hunger for human flesh. They are ancient, sophisticated, remarkably diverse, and absolutely essential to the health of every ocean on this planet. They carry senses we can barely comprehend, detecting electrical fields measured in billionths of a volt and chemical traces measured in parts per billion. Their reproductive strategies range from the gentle, an egg case screwed carefully into a rock crevice by a mother horn shark, to the genuinely shocking, a sand tiger embryo consuming its siblings in the womb. Some glow in the dark in the deepest parts of the ocean. Some walk across dry reef flats on their fins. Some live for centuries, outlasting empires and civilizations. drifting slowly through cold, dark water with the patience of geological time. And they need our help. Not because they are cute or cuddly or easy to love. Not because they look at us with wide, soulful eyes the way a seal pup does. Sharks will never win a popularity contest with pandas or dolphins. But they need our protection because without them, the oceans that sustain all life on Earth, including our own, will be fundamentally and perhaps irreversibly diminished. Sharks are apex predators that regulate the populations below them, keep ecosystems in balance, and maintain the health of coral reefs, seagrass beds, and open ocean food webs. When sharks vanish from an ecosystem, that system begins to unravel from the top down. Over 530 species, every ocean on the planet, every depth, from the sunlit surface to the midnight abyss, from the warm tropics to the freezing Arctic. These are the sharks, and their story, after all these centuries, is far from over. Thank you for watching.